if things were going so well for the Northam campaign, if they were going as well as you want to paint it, David, and I know that you got to be a cheerleader for the Democratic Party because you're head of the caucus and the recruiting thing, and you're dialed in and all that leadership. But I just look at the reality of it, right? So for 7 months, Ralph Northam's campaign was based on one thing: Trump sucks. Now, a week ago, he comes out with a new TV ad that says, well, Trump only sucks a little bit. I mean, if your campaign strategy is working, why would you change it? They have to back off on it because they got nowhere to go with it.
Whatever. Listen, Ed Gillespie is running on 17 different policy papers, and I mean, I don't understand exactly.
No, it's 17 a day.
Right, that's right. 17 with 5 subparts. I mean,
yes.
Ed's message hasn't been all that clear, but to me, Obama definitely is being brought in to fire up the base. I don't agree with that, but what's interesting to me is the location they picked where to bring him, because if you remember back in the 2008 presidential campaign, the very last event for Obama of the entire presidential cycle was at midnight in Manassas. And they brought him out to the Manassas Fairgrounds. And that was because they saw something in their polling or whatever that said they needed to have him there to get Northern Virginia juiced up. And my guess is that Obama's location has more to do with sort of polling decisions and stuff like that, where they want to see a surge as opposed to convenience for drivers. But I mean, and I would think also, probably the state's African American population, the Democratic population of the state, is probably more based around the Hampton Roads, Richmond area than it is in Northern Virginia. Although we do have a significant population up here, but my guess is it has more to do with polling or turnout kind of issues than it does with driving convenience. But I also agree with Dave, though, that Obama, I think, inspires more than just African Americans within the party. I think there's a lot of people in the party that, a lot of non-African American parts of our base that are very excited by him as well. Yeah. So,
I think the Richmond area too is the most that's up for grabs.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, why don't you bring in Hillary, because she won?
Don't the numbers right now show that Hillary is less popular than Trump? I think I've seen some. Right, so,
yes, that's why I'm thinking you bring her in.
No,
right.
I guess they brought Obama in because I guess the fundraiser with Harvey Weinstein that had to get waxed, right? Cancer.
I mean, don't even.
You guys going to return that money or what?
I didn't get any of it. I didn't get any of it. I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, to have
what's up with this guy?
To have the leading guy in Hollywood. You've got as a predator. You've got the Bill Cosby thing. You've got certainly Trump's allegations of that. Clinton had his issues with it. This whole thing of sexual predation among our leaders has got to stop. People have got to learn to conduct their lives in respectful ways with everyone, women, with minorities. It just seems like things are out of control.
Not ask your employees for massages in a bathrobe. I mean, what the hell? I mean,
this is
really hard to defend.
What?
Right.
Yeah, Weinstein,
coming out in a bathrobe and ask in your office, and I don't know, how do you even get a bathrobe in your office? And then ask him to sit on the couch and then say part of the job interview is giving me a massage. I mean, it's a little out there.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Right, and then NBC wouldn't run the story, right? NBC said they didn't have enough facts. Then the Times ran the story.
I mean, that's the thing that people think if you're famous, they let you do it, and that's just a horrendous message to be out there.
Well, forget the politics of it, because look, I mean, he is the face of the Democratic donor base in Hollywood. There's no question about it, and it's kind of the duplicity that goes on and the double standard. But if you take all that out and you look at what this guy did and the fact that so many people in the business apparently were aware of it and said nothing, that's the cultural thing that I find to be really sickening. I mean, how would you not tell somebody about this? And apparently, many actors knew, male and female, knew that this guy was a serial sexual predator and just did nothing.
Yeah. Sat
on their hands. I guess they didn't want to cross him or...
You have to worry about getting sued when you start throwing stuff like that around, and that's an expensive headache. It's a PR disaster if you're in the public eye down there, I guess. I don't know.
I certainly have no way of knowing firsthand, but I mean, that's what you've always heard, that sex is often the rate of exchange in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And this is just maybe the worst example of it in history, but I'm sure there are others that never did get reported.
All right, so talking about this gubernatorial race. So you got Obama coming to Richmond. I reported today that the president is looking seriously at coming to Virginia in the final days. I think he's going to do that, and I think that's going to be very helpful to Gillespie. A lot of people thinking, well, maybe Corey Stewart should get involved. Let me just give you my take on that. I don't think Corey Stewart matters. If he's already endorsed Ed. If he campaigns for him, fine. If he doesn't campaign for him, fine. I think what matters here is Trump. If he comes, that's going to make a difference. I don't think Corey Stewart matters.
No, I don't think Corey really has a base. I mean,
he doesn't have a base.
He's trying to develop a base, but I mean, I was listening to you guys in the weigh-in, and I think Trump is definitely a guy that can move the needle and inspire some people to vote that might otherwise sit out.
Right.
That juiced his numbers around the state before, but I mean, there's definitely a downside, I think, up here in terms of getting him involved. I mean, Dave was talking about his precincts. There were precincts that I lost by 20 points that Hillary won by 5. And so, and of course, my district's a little closer to the swamp, but I don't think it. I don't.
Yeah. But does Gillespie come out on stage and raise his hand with Donald Trump? I mean, does he go that far?
I think he's got to go on stage. I think that, like, if they continue to try to thread the needle, which is Trump would come and Gillespie would say, "Well, I can't be there. I have another event." I mean, that would just backfire on him and blow up in his face. He absolutely has got to be there on stage. With the president, the president of the United States. I mean, Donald Trump is doing all this stuff, like him or not. I mean, I tell you, as far as covering the news, I can't get a day off. I can't get an hour. I can't breathe because every day there's conference calls. There's tax reform. There's NAFTA now we're fighting. There's the executive order coming out today at 11:30 on allowing people to purchase within state lines. He's getting out of the Paris Accord. There's Iran. It's every single day. He's got something going on.
Yeah, people are overwhelmed with information. And after a while, even bad news, crazy news,
I can't cover it.
anything like that is gone. But let's look at two things here that I think are instructive as to what's going to happen in this election.
Go ahead.
The first was our friend Jackson Miller, who's a Republican delegate out in the Manassas area, who had a couple $100,000 and great name recognition and what have you. And he loses by 8, 10, 12 in a clerk's race.
15 points, I think.
Yeah, I mean, just got crushed by somebody with who was pretty much a political newcomer. I think she'd run for the office before, but nobody really knew her, and he lost. But the bigger one was the school board race out here for it was a countywide school board race. Nobody knows who the candidates are really, except insiders. And so it becomes a sample ballot race. Everybody's handing out sample ballots.
They timed the race because they thought having a non-general election special in late August would benefit them.
Yes, totally and they absolutely did. And Karen Keyes Gamera won by the Democrat won by 66 points. Nobody wins countywide in Fairfax by 60%. Tom Davis, as popular as he was, never won by those kinds of numbers. Sharon Bulova, very popular, has not done that. Jerry Connolly. Yes, we're a blue county, but we're not silly blue in terms of, 60 plus in countywide races. There's enthusiasm there, that'll get to that kind of a number. And there's some kind of, depressed, Republican, interest in what's going on. And I think, we can sit here and talk about monuments and we can sit here and talk about MS-13 and sanctuary cities. This is about enthusiasm. And right now it's with Democrats.
In 2009, when Sharon Bulova ran in that special in January, right after Obama won, Sharon Bulova won the county by 1,000 votes. I think it was by 2%. And that was when, again, the Republicans were getting angry and enthused, and the Democrats had just won and were fat and happy. And one of the things I think people have forgotten, given that Terry McAuliffe broke the streak 4 years ago, is that Virginia tends to go against who's ever in the White House in terms of political party for governor.
Right.
There's a lot of reasons for that, but I think the only reason that Terry broke that streak last year, I shouldn't say the only reason, but the big reason was Ken Cuccinelli.
And the government shutdown.
Yeah. Well,
and Ken Cuccinelli was probably the worst candidate in the history of Republican candidates ever.
Right, but I think we're going to revert back to that. And I think, that all the stuff – the problem is in Washington, D.C., the way their legislative cycle works – the president's always pushing their most aggressive policy proposals right now during our governor's race because they got to get it done before they come back next year when Congress is up for election, because Congress doesn't like to do controversial stuff.
Yeah, but look, the only really thing that affected you, that the Democrats you were fired up with, was Obamacare, and that's off the table. I mean, what, is Northern Virginia upset because somebody might pay less taxes? I mean, come on. Here's the thing. The Democratic Party of Virginia is like the Cleveland Indians right now. You guys have peaked way too soon. You won your 25 in a row. You get to the playoffs, you lose. And I think that's where I think you peaked too soon. You're not going to get the turnout you want. You've got an uninspiring candidate that has no message, that his consultants have twisted Ralph Northam 3 ways to a pretzel. I mean, you talk to the guy, he's stiff, he's uptight, everything he says is monitored. And I'll tell you the other thing. Why is the Ralph Northam campaign petrified of your base? Why are they so afraid of Blue Virginia, who's got 525 logins a day? I mean, it's like ridiculous. If your candidate was just able to campaign as who he is, you would win this race hands down. Wouldn't even be close. But you're going to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory because they've turned Ralph into something he isn't. He's not a progressive left-wing icon. He's a moderate centrist. And when you try to present yourself as something you're not, you're uncomfortable. The thing about Ed is, I mean, you know, Ed doesn't fire a lot of people up, but you got to hand it to the Ed campaign. Ed is Ed. He is who he is. He's a policy guy. He puts out 27 policy things a day. You can't keep up with it. But Ed is Ed. He's Ed. The Democratic candidate, I don't know. When I talk to the guy now, I don't even know who he is. That's why you're going to lose.
I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you, John. I mean, first of all, the polling doesn't bear that out at all. If anything, the polling's been moving away from that. It's been opening up in the last 2 weeks, and it's also
what polling?
Huh?
Christopher Newport
Christopher
University,
Newport,
the poll that
two.
said that Clinton was going to beat Trump by 27.
There was two. There was 2 polls. There was a 10.1 and there was a 7.1 in the last week, and those are also sort of consistent with the sort of noises I'm hearing about what's going on in the House of Delegates in terms of their tracks snapping into shape and being a whole lot tighter than they were 4 years ago. So I mean, when I was involved with caucus stuff, I mean, to me, people are starting to pay attention and things are breaking apart. So I'm not as in touch with the rest of the state which is where all the Republican loads are in terms of how inspired they are or how much, whether there's going to be a surge down there or not. But I can tell you up here, Ralph is doing just fine. The base is just fine. People are plenty inspired, and there's a lot of really pissed off people because of what the president's been doing that feel like they need to do something for once.
Like what? Like what has he done to piss people off up here?
Well, I mean, he did an ice raid on a hypothermia shelter in my district. I mean, that scared the hell out of a lot of the immigrant community up here, and a lot of the. I can tell you all the. I mean, it's a daily basis. He's attacking federal government workers. He's people up here make their living working for the government.
Did we mention the fear of nuclear war? I mean, come on, John. This is serious business.
Come on, let's have a serious dialogue.
No. This is serious. You're talking about people's fears here. They do not trust this man. They feel that Donald Trump is in a situation where he doesn't know what he's doing. He's throwing a lot of words around there. Accidents happen in this world. I mean, you look back at what happened in World War I.
So now you're telling me that Ralph is going to win because somebody's afraid that Trump is going to start.
I think the world sets up very well right now for a calm, relaxed, adult human being with experience who's going to run our Commonwealth in a thoughtful, careful way.
You guys,
given what's going on in Washington right now, and Ed Gillespie doesn't offer any kind of remedy to that.
I'm going to do my election night special show. I do it at the campaign headquarters of who I think is going to be the winner. I have not been wrong many times in the past 7 years. I'm going to the Gillespie headquarters. He's going to win, and I got to tell you, I'm going to laugh my ass off. I really am. That night, because you guys, when you're done with all your opinions and all your school board races and Jackson Miller, clerk of court, whatever facts you're bringing up, your candidate's awful. They have no message. They're going to lose. And the other thing is you're going to lose the lieutenant governor's race. And that's not even going to be close because you put a candidate up who's a great guy, Justin Fairfax, And it's like he's running as the standard bearer of the Democratic Socialist Workers Party. I mean, the guy is for Bernie Sanders' care, confiscating guns. I mean, he's running the most liberal, left-wing, communist-type campaign I've ever seen. I mean, how do you put this guy up? This is Virginia. You think you're going to win by Fairfax saying, I'm in favor of confiscating semi-automatic weapons. So if you own one, I'm going to send state agents to the door, knock on the door, go through your home, and take your weapon away. Oh, how's this guy going to win?
No, come on. Let's get serious here. Justin Fairfax. This is the wave of the future in terms of younger people bringing new thought, new ideas, a new kind of background.
Wait a minute. Are you saying Jill Vogel's not young?
Huh? Oh, I would never, ever say that. It is
David Marston says Jill Vogel.
Don't even take me
old.
There. But the issue here is the lieutenant governor's race. I don't care what your messaging is or what your campaign issue is. It's not determined by what the lieutenant governor says or lieutenant governor candidates say or don't say. There are dynamics that go on to determine who our lieutenant governor is going to be that is not controlled by candidates. So it doesn't matter what positions Jill Vogel has or Justin Fairfax has. This is going to be one of those things determined by how people look at the top of the ticket and whether they're going to hedge their bets on who they vote for governor by voting for the other party for lieutenant governor. Right. And so I'm not worried about that at all. There's actually a few issues in the AG's race in terms of how people view things, but for goodness sakes, John Adams is going to do just the exact opposite of Mark Herring for conservatives as to what they accuse Herring of doing for liberals. So yeah, spare me.
We're almost out of time. But the grand irony in this race for the Democratic ticket is 8 months ago, when you looked at it, Mark Herring was seen as the left-wing progressive candidate of whoever the three would be. 4 weeks out, 3 weeks out, he's the centrist moderate compared to the other two. That's why I think it's going to be tough for Adams to win. It's going to be tough. I think he's got a shot, but Herring has ran a great campaign. And he's got to go in right now as the overwhelming.
Adams hasn't even been noticed. I mean, I haven't heard anything out of him in the media. I mean, his campaign's been invisible, completely invisible. So, yeah. I mean, you got to have name ID, and you got to get out there some news. You got to make some proposals that get some attention.
Yeah, he can't get the attention. And Mark Herring is running a very smart campaign. He's staying in the middle, and his TV ads are about fighting opioids. They're about getting money back from people that have been scammed by companies, and it's almost like a business campaign, and he's a very low-key guy, but I think they're running a great campaign, and I think that.
And on the LGBT issue and gay and same-sex marriage, he was proven to be right. The Supreme Court backed him up. Conservative Supreme Court backed him up. So
absolutely right.
And you make a campaign out of he was politicizing the office. No, that's crazy.
Can't do it.
Adams is
toast. I mean, you can't do it. And there's a contingent of people that are Republicans like me that are pro-gay rights that have been fighting that battle like I have for 35 years plus. That it's not the way it is. I don't know what how he's going to get his name ID up to win this thing. So I've got Herring as the favorite. I got to go. I'm out of time. We'll be back with your calls for the boys. This is the John Fredericks Radio Network. Trucking the Truth.